So can you describe where you grew up?
Idyllic here. All the trees, all the fields, the moors over there, and used to spend all day making dens in the bracken and then all the next day taking it down and all the next day making it up again, and that's just what we used to do. I'd got a dog called Bonzo, and it was a black and white Heinz 57. In fact, I've been to my grand's to stay, and when I came home, there was a basket in the kitchen, and this little dog came running out, and I'd always wanted a dog, but my next door but one neighbours had bought him for my birthday, and never told my mum and dad, just bought him me. Can you imagine doing it now? And he just used to roam freely. He never... In fact, we went to church. Well, we were never at church all the time, but there was on Sunday morning, and they'd gone down to communion, and they knelt down next to Bonzo were kneeling down at the side of them. And the vicar, it was Fred Green, and he said, no, he said it's a animals are welcome in church as well. I know when we were little, there was nothing round it. It was all flat down the bottom here, and you could we used to go up to Train Bridge, and at 6 o'clock there was a train coming past. They used to call it the 6 o'clock fish. And so at 6:15 every night, the lads round here, quick 6 o'clock fish, and they'd all race up. And all they do is stand on the bridge, and the steam would come out and watch it, then come back again. But because they're all lads round here. I think there's about 2 girls, I think. And it was in those days we used to go up. There were a dozen of us used to go up into the forest all day with a sandwich and a bottle of water, and no mobile phones, no nothing. And I know one thing. I was 11, and I'd borrowed Colin Gibson's. He's got a racing bike, and I went up to the train bridge on it, and then I came down, and I can still remember the wind going through my hair, and I was going down like mad, and I got to the bend, and it had been raining, and it was sandy, so it's got like a little rut in it, and I put my brakes on, and I put the front brake on rather than the back brake, and went over the handlebars, and my dad looked out the window and he saw me staggering, and I can't remember anything else. I just remember waking up in hospital 3 days later. I was unconscious for 3 days.
Can you tell me about pickles?
Oh right, it was 1966, and I was in the Guides, and we used to have the pit used to do a gala every year, and all businesses and everything used to have a float, an open back, flat back lorry, and I was in the Guides, and so we'd got this lorry, and in 1966 the World Cup was stolen just before England played, and it was found by Mr. Corbett, and his dog Pickles found it, and so I was elected to be Mr. Corbett, and my dog Bonzo was Pickles, and so I had to wear I wore hipster trousers because that's what you did in the 60s. Then I'd got a brown corduroy jacket on with leather patches on my elbow. Then I'd got long hair, so I'd got it all piled up, and I'd got my dad's flat cap on, and I'd got Bonzo on the lead in one hand as Pickles, and World Cup in other hand. I can't remember coming through Clipston, which I must have done, but I can remember being on the field where the football is. It used to be called Lido Field, and I can remember it all being round, all being there and being judged. But I don't think we won, because if we'd have won, there'd have been a photograph of us. So
when you say the World Cup was stolen, you don't mean it was won by another country? Was it literally stolen? It was stolen,
and Pickles found it in a hedge wrapped in newspaper. I've looked all this up, so I know I didn't. I'm not making it up. I thought I'd better get the facts straight, and And because Mr. Corbett, who was interviewed, they thought he'd actually stolen it because it was his hedge that they found it under. And I remember there used to be a lad that used to live around the corner, and he was a year older than me, and I used to often walk up to school with him in the morning. And when I came home one night on the bus from work, he was on the same bus, he come and sat with me, and we walked down together, and he said, I was thinking quite nice, and he said, can I ask you a personal question? I thought, he's going to ask me out. I said, how much do you earn at Co-op? When I was still at school, and it was the Radio 1 had just started, and the very first competition they had was they played every day. They played a record, and you had to. I think it was the first letter of the singer's name, and you had to make them, at the end of the week, do them all. And it was a DJ, and it was Tony Brandon, and I won the very first competition, and it was read out on a Saturday on the radio, but I didn't hear it until I got to school Monday morning, and all my friends, your name was on radio on Saturday, didn't hear it, and I think 2 weeks later I got a letter from the BBC saying I'd won. It was an Alba record player, and it was that hard plastic, and it was got a little handle on and shaped like that, and you got a radio there and a record. It was wonderful. It took 6 weeks from me getting the letter saying I'd got it to them receiving the letter saying now it'd be done in a minute, wouldn't it?
Can you tell me about the seaside trips on the train?
Right. My friend, I think it must have been about, say, 14 or 15, and her dad worked at the pit, and this was all alien to him because my dad didn't, so I didn't know about these. But we got a train in Clipston, and we was all given a bag of goodies like pop and crisps and things, and then we went to Skegness, and it was lovely. And we just got off. We didn't have to stay with them. We could just, two 14, 15-year-old girls on their own in Skegness. It was. I think my mum and dad thought we might have been supervised, but they were wrong. And we met these two lads, and they worked at Butlins, and they wanted us to go back to Butlins to camp with them. And I remember sitting there saying, I can't. I said, we've got to go back on the train. I said, we've come on a trip on the train from Clipston Colliery. And I don't know why I said colliery, not pit. And these two lads were Scottish, so they couldn't really understand a word I was saying anyway. And then we sort of sat with them on the sand dunes on the beach, and we're sort of kissing and everything. And then I just opened my eyes, and as if my mum and dad's friend and husband were walking past, they just said, hello, Susan. I don't think they ever told my mum because I'd got, nothing was ever said about it. I can remember getting on the train in where the headstocks are, somewhere around there. So I don't know, but I mean, in the old days we used to have a train line running along there anyway. I think it was the LMS, I think.
Yeah.
So, but I think this one, it might just have been a little track for the pit or the colliery, but it took us to Skegness, so it must have joined something else. There was Bruffs, and Bruffs is where, I'm sure that's where that second-hand shop is next to Co-op. I'm sure that's where Bruffs, and it was one of those, you got wooden counters, and if you went for some cheese, they'd get the cheese, wire and do it like that. And also, they've got the, you change, if you had something for twopence and you got 5p, they put it in these tubes and then put it in there, then they'd push it up and just go to somewhere sitting upstairs, and then they'd give you change back, then it's to come down there. They had that in the Co-op as well, and they were metal, like metal tubes. You get these miners' lamps. They were that sort of shape, but sort of that big, and then they'd got, I think at both ends they'd got like a suede effect, like a bump, but they'd got a hole in, and they'd put the money in, pull the thing down, push it up, and then it was like a network of little pipes, and then somebody at the top, and you'd put how much change you wanted or the receipt, then they'd send it down and everything, then you'd put it back. Remember, can you imagine being in Aldi nowadays and doing that?
Can you tell me about when you got married?
Oh, right, yes. Because Fred Green was a friend of my mum and dad's. It was because he's a great big bloke, and it was lovely. But when I got married, I was, I think I was 3 months pregnant, and I remember telling my mum, and she said straight away, I told her my dad was working away as well. I think I must have been awful. I didn't even wait, and I told her, and she says, right, she says, you'll have to get married, but we'll get married anyway. It's just, we just brought it forward a bit. We'll get married in the April, and we brought it forward to the November. And she says, you can't get married in white at church. She says, you'll have to, she says, register office and you can wear a suit. And I'd been happy to do anything, And anyway, the vicar came to see her, and she told the vicar, and he said, I'm sure she can get married in church. So she relented and said, you can get married in church. And then but she said she's not wearing white. And the vicar said, Joan, he said, I don't think it's appropriate. He said, she's all right wearing white. So I ended up having a coral dress, which my sister-in-law made for me, Tony's brother's wife, and she had to keep letting it out. And it was a long coral silk dress with a high neck, and then had a white lace over the top. I still got it, actually. I don't know why nobody wants to use it. And I didn't have a veil, but the morning of my wedding, Tony's brother's wife came and helped me get ready, and she did my hair, and she said, you can borrow my veil. So I borrowed that.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, but that's so unlike my mum saying anything like that. You can't do that and do this, but the vicar persuaded her otherwise. Yeah, and then when afterward we got married, and you have to pay for the vicar, and you pay for the bells, and you pay for the choir, and we didn't have to pay for anything. And then even found a Silver Cross pram for us, and a settee as well. But about Gwendoline Grove, my dad used to do a lot for them as well. If ever the girls had got anywhere to go, he'd take them wherever they wanted to go. Or if they'd got a flat with the baby, my dad and my brother Steve would go with them and take things. Because he used to upset our Steve. He'd say, he'd got 2 cars and lived in a nice house, and he said he felt guilty because they'd got nothing, and they were going to a flat, and the stuff they was putting in the flat was the stuff that other people didn't want, and but they were quite, but they were, Joan Gurney said that they was accepted in Clipston. There was only a few at church and at the village that didn't accept them, but when they used to come from, they used to walk, they'd walk in like crocodile file, just with somebody leading at the front, and they never seemed to be in a group. It was all walking like that to the shops or to church. But I'm sure before I got married in 71, and I'm sure before then my mum used to do the minutes, and used to go up there. Yeah.
Did you used to go there?
Yeah, I used to go a couple of times if my dad couldn't go, because they used to go and stop in the evening if Joan had got anywhere to go.
Who's Joan?
Joan Gurney. She was very, very nice.
And what did she do?
She was the, I don't know if you call them matrons, but she was in charge of the girls. And when my mum first used to do it, it was Miss Kinder. I never knew her first name. But Joan Gurney was there when Helen and my two were, were sort of 5 and 6 and 7 and that, and older as well. So I knew her the most. They employed a lot of Clipston people for cleaning and doing the cooking and everything. And then I know Joan left when it was. They were deciding they wanted to do it. Have qualifications to do this and everything, and Joan said it wouldn't work like that, and so she left, and it didn't work, and I think it closed a couple of years after she left.
And what was your experience there? Can you describe what it was like at the home? It was
very dark because it was surrounded by trees. It used to be the pit manager's house, and so it had just got small rooms, so it had not been knocked out and made into bigger places. It was still, the kitchen might have been made bigger, but the rooms were still little cosy rooms with loads of armchairs in, and the grounds were lovely. It was trees at the back, and then there was all grass round the sides. Because my dad was I think he was on Diocese Council, because I remember him saying he went to Southwell, to the Minster, and he was sat, they was having a garden party, and he was sat outside having a sandwich, he said, and he was sat on a bench under a tree, and my mum had been there somewhere, but he was sat there, and then this chap come and sat with him, and he'd got an overcoat on, and they were chatting and everything, and my dad was talking normal to him, and he said, why are you in? He was bishop. Whatever my dad were involved in, my mum were involved in, and other way round, apart from Mothers' Union and Young Wives. But so I think my dad must have heard about Gwendoline Grove House before, when it first started. And
what did your mum do there?
She was secretary. She took all the minutes every month, but she'd do lots of the paperwork, and she didn't do. If they'd got any letters to write to the diocese, she'd help with that. But a lot of what my mum it was all unpaid, and a lot of what my mum and dad did is if the Miss Kinder or Mrs Hall or Miss Gurney had to go out at night, they'd go and stop with them, and just sit and talk to them. And my dad and my brother would take, if they needed to go anywhere, they'd take them in the car. And also, if any of the girls had got a flat, they'd help them to move them in and everything. So they did a lot like that. And then my dad used to always go up and help with the garden parties or any social events they had, and help put the tables up and and do it all. And this is a garden party. Now that's my mum, that's my son, and that's my daughter. And I think my dad's on the back somewhere with a blue shirt on.
Is that what brought you back to Clipston then? Your parents being unwell, and did you move back in here?
No, when I first moved back in, they were both fine. I told them they got me under Trade Descriptions Act. Because when I got here, I'd come in from work, my dinner would be ready. My washing would be done and my ironing. It was lovely, but that lasted about 2 years, I think. And then it sort of went downhill after that. But my mum, I couldn't go anywhere without having to have carers, to stop with my mum. And I used to have it was a doorbell, and my mum had got one of the bells, and my dad had got the other. Then if he used to go and gone, I used to plug it into the garage and turn it on. Then if ever they needed me, they just pressed this, and it was like a doorbell ringing outside. So I could actually go in the garden and leave them. But my mum were a devil. She'd press it. Are you all right? Oh, I'm just making sure it worked. My mum was very poorly. She was in bed for 2.5 years, and she'd got slight dementia, but it's hard because she's trying to get out of bed and say, "Mum, what are you doing?" I've got to take Arthur to school, Arthur with my dad. And at first he'd say, "It's not Arthur, it's my dad." After a bit I'd say, "It's all right, Mum, I've taken him to school, you're all right," and just calm down. You know, and my dad, this was after my mum had died, and I could hear the commotion in the bedroom one night. I said, "What on earth are you doing?" He was sat at the end of bed. I don't know how he'd got out of bed because he'd got a guard thing to stop him falling out. And he says, "I'm trying to hold this, how did you call it, this annual general meeting, and they won't be quiet. They're talking, and I'm telling them to be quiet." So he said, "It's time for them." So I just said, "Right, let's have you all out now." He said, "Oh, good." He said, "What about them in the living room?" That's why I sent them home ages ago. And I know it's sort of lying, but it calms them down, you know, and my dad had always talked about this, but we'd never really asked him much about it until after when he died. I found out about it to talk about it at church, and they were starting a new regiment called the RAF Regiment, and it was cleaning up after everywhere, going in concentration camps, and I know it sounds awful, but we didn't. But my dad never talked about anything like that until he got older, and as he got older he got things a bit mixed up, so we took it with a bit of pinch of salt really, which we shouldn't have done. And he was like one of the founder members of the RAF Regiment. My dad had loved it, knowing that we all knew about him. Same as my mum had loved knowing about, talking about Gwendoline Grove House. It's just a shame we didn't do it years ago when they were here. But we didn't realise he'd gone in the army, and then he'd been recruited for this special ops thing, you know, this RAF Regiment, and it all sort of fell into place then. And they even sent somebody to represent at the RAF Regiment to his funeral. You know, in the old days, people who lived in the big house used to own most of the villages, and when my dad lived in, I don't know if it was Claycross or Stonebroom, there was the Reddingtons, and they lived in the big house, and my gran, my dad's mum, was a milliner, and she used to be at their house, and she used to do all their... She first got married, that's what she used to do, and she used to make all the hats and do it, and then he'd got a shop and she'd do all the hats for them. So they got quite friendly, and the Reddingtons had got, I think they'd got 3 daughters. One of the daughters owned a sweet shop, and it was lovely because you'd go in the sweet shop, and I mean, my dad used to take us there when we were little, and we were down here, and the big, counter then, all you could see was sweets. Another one married a farmer, and then the other one married a tea plantation owner in India, and she's my dad's godmother. I know she eventually came back, and I don't think it was as rosy out there as what she thought, but she was my dad's godmother. And then the other one who married a farmer, they lived out at Farnsfield, and my dad used to walk from Claycross to Farnsfield through the fields every weekend, and he stopped there every weekend, and he used to be on the farm all the time with the horses. Yeah, but he used to spend most of his time there, and he even had Christmas dinner there one day. He said because, you know, the husband of the woman that my dad knew, that sounds good, doesn't it? And he put a 6pence in the Christmas pudding, and nobody were allowed to get it till, you know, he said let Arthur get it. But I don't think it went down very well with the two lads, because my dad got preferential treatment quite a lot, but he loved it out there.